Hi everyone, my name is Chloe. Welcome back to my channel. And today I'm going to be doing a social commentary video on Idris Elba and just reacting to the recent controversy where he basically stated that he no longer wants to identify as a black actor. So don't hesitate to let me know what you think about this topic below. Idris Elba, he is one of the most well-known black British actors across the globe. And recently he did an interview with Esquire magazine entitled Becoming Idris. Within this article, it's kind of autobiographical, and he's talking about his life growing up as an only child in Hackney, and then when he moved to Canning Town, it wasn't as diverse. I'm going to read directly the segment from the interview and put it on the screen as I'm reading it. So, in section 3, Idris says the following. If we spent half the time not talking about the differences, but the similarities between us, the entire planet would have a shift in the way that we deal with each other. As humans, we are obsessed with race. And that obsession can really hinder people's aspirations, hinder people's growth. Racism should be a topic for discussion, sure. Racism is very real. But from my perspective, it's only as powerful as you allow it to be. I stopped describing myself as a black actor when I realized it put me in a box. We've got to grow. We've got to. Our skin is no more than that. It's just skin. Rant over. So that was the last line. And straight away, we're seeing him tie aspiration or lack of success, is really what is implied there, to a mindset. And it's the fact that he sees this as thinking outside of the box, but I'm going to delve deeper into this within the main meat of my video. So my main argument is that Idris just wants to be one of the lads. And when I'm saying this, what comes through is this idea that the toll of racism and racism as a whole can be fixed through a change of mindset. What this does is place the responsibility for addressing racism on those impacted by it. This is not a new idea. It's not revolutionary. It's not challenging. We saw the dialogue around James Bond and how, I'm not sure if they were like a well-known producer or those emails that got leaked, and it was revealed that they thought Idris Elba was too urban, which is obviously a term that is used to describe black people, just to describe blackness, something being black as a negative in that context. So he's obviously been impacted by that, right? But his focus is the wrong one. And he's actually betraying those that have supported him in having this mindset, because this mindset is used against us. It's used to justify the mistreatment. We know that with media, it reflects the imagination of the writers, the directors, the producers. And this is overwhelmingly white. It's a white-dominated industry. That is what you're going up against, Idris. Idris's views that are in this article are not new, but we're going to see people celebrate him and say that he's a free thinker and that why can't everyone else be like him? And there's a reason for that, because the way in which society is separated benefits a very specific group of people, and they don't want to acknowledge the differential treatment, because that would mean that we have to address their preferential treatment and what they've gained through being prioritized and constantly uplifted, as our groups are constantly mistreated. Moving on to my next point. So I just kind of wanted to talk about race, colorblindness, and neoliberalism, and how this ties into aspiration and success. So just to start off, colorblindness is a political ideology. It's a way of thinking that particularly grew in the Barack Obama era, where Barack Obama was elected as the first Black president of the United States in 2009. We heard a lot of these terms like post-racialism and just to link back to colorblindness being thrown around. And it's seen as he overcame that. He overcame his race to achieve that success. Therefore, does race even really have an impact anymore? Does racism even exist? That is the argument. And just to tie into neoliberalism a bit, is why it kind of makes me think of Idris here, is that when Margaret Thatcher was elected the first female prime minister, we had these same kind of arguments coming up. And she really pushed this idea of individualism and this sort of femme for yourself mindset, which I think when combined with race, especially if you want to think about market and economics, it creates a specific view of race. And if you want to think about how Hollywood plays into this kind of rags to riches story where non-white celebrities are marketed as having overcome, they succeeded despite being a poor Black woman that grew up in the Bronx. Like, you always hear these stories. We saw a similar dialogue when Rishi Sunak became the first South Asian Prime Minister of the UK last year. We saw similar dialogues around that. But we know that you can be of a certain background, you can be Black, South Asian, but your mindset, you're still invested in the status quo. If you think about the wheels of capitalism, in order to keep people going along with this system of exploitation, these stories, these narratives around, going against the odds and overcoming, and it creates an environment where those that succeed, like Idris Elba, the privileged are then the ones that are the exceptional ones. They overcame, so why can't you? Okay, so this is my final point. And my final point in challenging Idris's belief that you can just think your way out of racism and that really we need to be focused on aspiration and growth and just basically just not really understanding the way that the world is, in my personal opinion. I wanted to talk about cultural assimilation and the desire to become as close to whiteness as possible. So growing up in the UK myself, I'm from London, as a Caribbean immigrant, I think I'm probably like second generation in my family. I just wanted to say that it's like very much ingrained in us growing up that our culture is an issue. And this is something that a lot of people experience, and that everything is our fault. Like, literally, we're just talking about race too much. We're just letting it get to us too much. If we talked about it less, then everything would be okay. Honestly, I think a lot of us wish that it would be that straightforward, but it's not. We can't Jedi mind trick our way out of racism and its effects. It literally impacts your access to clean air, housing, the education you receive. There's no area of society that is not touched by the system of white supremacy. Do I acknowledge that I experienced that messaging around our culture being a negative factor in the UK? Definitely. And you would always hear, former prime ministers like Tony Blair, for example, and just political figures in general talking about how cut off from society insert group here is, and that they must make more of an effort to fit into a British way of life. What is causing lack of educational attainment, etc.? It's not looking at the structures or institutions, it's looking at the communities as the problem. Identity is political. How you identify is extremely political, and it tells people what side you're on. whose back you've got. Once people like Idris become celebrities, they're in a bubble. And I just think that he's not clued up. And that is a choice. And we know that in being Black politically, in terms of your standpoint and speaking up about the persecution, for example, that Black people are facing, cuts off a huge audience of people. Is seen as divisive. Is seen as problematic. It's seen as too out there. And in conclusion, I just wanted to say that adopting and seeking to become a part of the status quo will not stop you from experiencing racism. All you are doing is making it harder for those who do not have the wealth to protect us, but also delude us into thinking we can do Jedi mind tricks and suddenly we'll be treated as equals. Anyway, that is it for today's video. Please let me know what you think of this topic on Idris Elba below. And don't forget to check out my other videos. I post every 2 weeks. See you soon.